Mercury in Gemini in the horoscope, in the birth chart. And you can find out if you have what sign your Mercury in from my birth chart calculator. I'm putting a link here. Enter your details. You don't need to know your time of birth. Mercury does not change its sign, within 24 hours. And go to the planetary detail table, where you can see a table of all the planets where they're situated, Sun, Moon, Ascendant. You find Mercury and check what is its sign. And if it happens to be in Mercury, in Gemini, if your Mercury happens to be in Gemini, this video is for you. And this is a super great place to have your Mercury. Mercury is the planet of communication, information, agility, fastness of thought. And it shows a lot of your persona that others see. In ancient astrology, Mercury and the Moon were defining the personality that others know you through, the nature of the person, because Mercury is how we communicate, how we express ourselves, and how do others get to know us through our communications. And Mercury rules our skills as well. And Mercury in Gemini, Gemini is the sign of Mercury, is the sign that Mercury rules. So it's very natural, easy position for Mercury to be in. So it makes those people, their thinking becomes very smart. They become very smart. They're known for smartness, for very alert mind, for a very rapid thinking processes, and very highly articulate speech. Even if, for example, all my friends that have Mercury in Gemini, when I'm trying to explain some complicated idea, they can almost through mirroring, I'm trying to say it in some way, and everything that I said so complicated, they put it in one sentence that nails it. And I'm like, wow. I'm telling you this information. How could you nail it? They're so good at getting complicated information and spreading it out and making it simple and giving it to others, so making it very articulate and easy to understand. When they communicate, they won't communicate in some ponderous, very difficult scholarly way to understand. Actually, they'll use a very local, vernacular, for people that is contemporary language that is easy for others to understand, and actually they can change their style of communication. They can go from very slang communicative style with if someone will understand them better, they'll use a local slang, idioms and expressions. But they can very quickly change and all of a sudden start speaking in high level presentation. But every time they give information, they communicate, they'll do it in a quick way. They'll do it in they'll do it in a very clear, articulate way that everyone can understand it. And they're very interactive. They can do, their mind can be doing a few things at the same time. They can be talking on the phone while cooking, while also filling up some documents. And this is ubiquitous. Mercury in Gemini, they're multitaskers. But that's the thing. Multitasking excludes ability to focus very deeply. Unless Saturn is there in the sign with Mercury, aspects it, to give more depth to the mind, to give more focus, to the mind, to the concentration, to anchor it, or maybe some other planet. Usually they'll be a bit scattered. They'll be doing a few things at the same time, having a few rods in the fire at the same time, and because they have so many different interests and skills and abilities and doing a few things at the same time, they might feel to some other people a little bit more superficial somehow, or the information can be a bit more superficial because they learn a bit of everything and they communicate a bit of everything. So somehow they're known as jack of all trades. They know a little bit of everything because they have so many interests, but they get easily bored, so they skip from one theme to another. Even in conversation with them, you can find them, they're skipping from one topic to another, and they'll find something interesting and something to the point to say about everything. For some reason, these people have a lot of information in their head, but often the skills come so easily to them, but they need to have passion, real passion about something in order to learn it inside out. Otherwise, they quickly get bored and move on. So for them, if you have a child with Mercury in Gemini, you need to put them in a school or environment which is very stimulating, which does not do 5 hours or 2-3 hours consecutive of the same subject, that switches quickly from one subject to another, teaching one class now, then another, and changing environments, maybe a school where they can study through nature. One class is in nature, one class is in special, there is movement, where there's different stimulating environments, different experimenting as well, and they'll learn much easier. But if it's something, if you put them on the same track doing the same thing for hours, my God, they can create disturbance in the class because they get easily bored and unfocused. But usually they'll be the one that learn the fastest, and they might even get a bit impatient with others who don't understand things as fast as they can, because the mind is so agile when it's in Gemini. And again, as I said, just like they can switch from one conversation to another, they can quickly answer back. You say something, they can answer back so witty. I mean, those people are amazing. To have on a company, to sit on a table, I can sit with them for hours, and they always crack me up. They always have a funny answer for everything, or a very insightful answer, an opinion on things. And even though they might not stem from some deep understanding, they just make it so simple and so to the point. They're amazing, and they can be often bilingual, multicultural, many languages. They so quickly pick up languages. I have a friend who was Mercury in Gemini, and when she came to the UK, she knew no words in English, and she learned it just by texting with boyfriends and just by talking with me, and she would say, talk to me in English, and within 4 or 5 months she was speaking English amazingly. Wow, I studied it for 5 years in a specialized English school, and I had to write each word down 100 times, but she picked it up so quickly. They pick up from the environment. They can be in a country, stay a few months there, and come back knowing the language, for example. If they have interest, because they soak up, they're a bit impressionable, they soak up information so easily. And often they can be great comedians. Mercury and Gemini people, they're amazing because they can mimic, they can mirror. Gemini is the sign of the twins, so there is mirroring there. So they can be some of the best ones that make others' voices, that, for example, that to imitate an accent, a foreign accent, or even when they go to live in foreign countries, they very quickly pick up the language of the people there, and the intonation, and the slang, and the rising up and down of the voice. They can mimic, not like, well, a bit like parrots, but they're so good, like you come within a few months, you think they're locals. Rather than having a heavy accent or something. Obviously, I don't have Mercury in Gemini. And they are, they're some of the best comedians have Mercury in Gemini. And these are those comedians that they'll go on stage, even without having prepared anything, they'll start communicating with people, because what stimulates their mind is two-way conversation, stimulation. So they'll ask people questions, what do you work? And the person will say something, and the comedian will make a joke out of it very quickly. Or you tell them, very good comedians have this position. For example, Russell Brand, he can, on the spot, he can talk so much as well. He has his YouTube show now where he comments on current affairs and his opinions on that, because Mercury and Gemini people are very much interested in what's happening in the world now. They probably subscribe to different magazines, they watch the news, they watch what's happening, because Mercury in Gemini wants to be engaged and informed. It wants to know what's happening. They'll be the ones that listen to the radio even in the shower, or they need some noise around them to make things happening, because they get a little bit bored when they're quiet by themselves, and when they have nothing stimulating or interesting to find out, to learn about. They would always either switch on the TV or start reading or writing or talking on the phone. And I have this friend of Gemini and Mercury. She's like, she doesn't work, but she says, oh my God, I never have enough time. And I said, what do you do so much? I said, I have to talk to so many people on the phone. I have so many hobbies that I have to do, so many interests, because Gemini rules hobbies and interests as well. So many news to read, so many things to watch. And it's like, I never have enough time, for anything. And she doesn't even work. So they always find something to do. Otherwise, they can get bored very easily, And so they need stimulation through information, through interaction with others, and they're very good in social situations. They can be a bit of a social butterflies, jumping from one conversation to another, but they can very skillfully kind of what's the word, can very skillfully operate with a few people who have different agendas, different communications and skills. He can connect them with jokes and things like that. And often they have a lot of connections, a lot of people that they know. Maybe not all of them are very good friends, but they're acquaintances, they're connectors, because Gemini is the sign of mediating, of connecting others. So they can be amazing at professions where you have to introduce one people to another, getting a commission of some sort, or where you know a lot of contacts and you help one person, find a job or somehow, get introduced to another. They're very good at this networking, social networking. In most cases, of course, there are always exclusions, but they're always the one that they have 100 phone numbers in the phone or more than that, and they can be always on the phone or talking or writing or speaking, always engaging the mind a lot, and always saying their opinion and being informed about current affairs. Again, I gave you an example. Russell Brand. Another comedian is Chris Brown. Chris, sorry, forgot the name. Chris something, doesn't matter. And there, Joan Rivers has Mercury in Gemini. Well, she's good enough example. They have some gap. They have some skill of talking and making jokes and being fast on the spot and just saying it as it is, and without offending people, because Gemini is not an offensive sign. You see, it's a sense of humor, They can be very cutting and sharp, very quick repartee, very... well, just imagine Joan Rivers, and they can be very good because Mercury gives you skills, and Mercury is very observational sign, so they can see things and connect them in their head, and they become amazing writers. A lot of them, if they try writing, they can be very good at them. It comes to them naturally and fast as well. I think Anne Frank has Mercury in Gemini, the one that wrote her diary, and that became so impactful. And George Orwell had Mercury in Gemini. Quite a few people. I could have looked for much more, but just the first few that popped out, I used them. So they have skill for writing, for communication, for speaking, for information, for gathering information. They can become great journalists because, as I said, they're very much interested in what's happening around them, and they can put the information in very easy, simple way to understand, in a very contemporary language. Those that write articles, advertising, marketing, amazing for marketing, advertising as well, for public relations, connecting others, for international communications, because they can easily pick up other cultures and languages, and be agile, in their communications. Even for politics, they can be very good because, nowadays politics, they need the gift of speaking, not necessarily of nobility. And, if they can mesmerize and enchant the audience, that's what Gemini Mercuries can do with a witty mind. They can be great for politics. They can be great for all media work. There are a lot of TV presenters and a lot of journalists that work in media or Facebook nowadays, social media as well, because they can do those fast messages as well. Some of them can go more in depth, but Gemini just likes to gather information and give it, or get different pieces of information, connect them, find the common ground for them, and then send them out there. So any kind of information connected careers, media connected careers, they're natural for those things. Any kind of sales, working in sales, because of the skill of the mouth, of the skill of communications, they can be very good at sales, even a bit manipulative. There is an ability there because they're so fast in the mind that they love to play with people, not some kind of fucked up psychological games, but because their mind works faster, they can use words so skillfully and articulately that they can convince others of something that even they don't believe in. And they can make others doubt, with the great facts they give and the great way they can present information they want in their favor. or to present it in such a way that they can convince others, So they can be also great lawyers. I know a few people with this position which are amazing. And when they go in court and talk in front of others, I mean, wow. That their ability to articulate is amazing and to convince others. And they can be great as trainers of others because they have great skills themselves. They can learn things very easily and explain them in simple ways. So training, again, very good for such careers, marketing, advertising, public relationships as well. And Mercury and Gemini rules the hands. So naturally, they are quite skillful at their hands. If they try, they can play an instrument more easily than others. And because they also can write, sometimes they can be singer-songwriters. Like Bob Dylan has Mercury in Gemini, and wow, does he write amazing poems, and they feel a little bit disjointed and all over the place, but they make sense, This is Gemini, and bits and pieces, puts here and there, and also plays an instrument, Also, not only musicians, but I've seen it with people that have to use their hands in very fine, precise way, like tennis players. They have some great tennis players have Mercury in Gemini, like Steffi Graf, like Murray, Andy Murray, like Rafael Nadal as well. So you see, there is something about the skillfulness, the dexterity of the hands, and often they can be ambidextrous, use both hands for something. They can be good seamstress, and they can be good using details and using anything with their hands. So having beautiful, if they set their mind to it, they can have a beautiful writing, styling, what is that called? Calligraphy almost type of writing, anything that, or if they decide to paint, they can make intricate little paintings and things like that. So yes, a lot of, it's a great position. The only problem is that they get bored, but at the same time, they're master communicators, master articulators, any kind of information, careers, or that with teaching, with communications, with writing, with speaking can be extremely, they're natural for that, these are their talents. And depending on the different houses, they can manifest this kind of knowledgeability because they gather information a lot in the different houses. In the first house, they're just naturally, Mercury in the first house in Gemini, they're just naturally so witty. They come across as so intelligent, so smart, so fast response back. Any kind of mercurial careers become part of their lawyers, all those careers that I mentioned, managing, organizing. They're fantastic for this kind of stuff. Media, all those kind of things. Mercury and they usually have a youthful face and youthful appearance and energy, because Mercury is a very youthful energy in the sign of Gemini. They often, all Mercury in Gemini people, even in their 60s and 70s, they would have this youthfulness of the mind. And when the mind is young and agile, it can keep the whole body and the whole energy and aura of the person quite youthful, a lot of hobbies, like they can be jack of all trades. I mean, even I have this friend who is in her early 40s now, and she says she has so many hobbies. She goes dancing, horse riding, hundreds of things, and she started doing them in her 40s, and she said, "Oh, of course not. I'll try everything." While people with Mercury in other more traditional signs, they would say, "Oh, I'm too old for this kind of stuff." But no, these people want to experiment, to try new things, new ideas, to meet new people, and wherever she goes, my friends with Mercury and Gemini, they make friends easily because they're witty. They're especially with, they know to speak the language of others. You know what I mean? To mirror others very quickly as well, and to communicate what others would be interested in. And to say interesting things about anything, so they can find friends and acquaintances in spheres, and all spheres of life, basically. That's why they're so popular often, and they're flirts with their communication. Maybe not necessarily sexually driven, but they can just charm the pants off you with their sense of humor, with their witty mind, and so they till their late age, they'd like to experiment, to try new things, youthful things, skills, learn new things. They learn all their life. And let's see, in the second house, But this is about all Mercury in Gemini. In the first house, it gives more youthful appearance, especially youthful energy and ability to work in all those Mercury careers and skills with hands as well. And I'm forgetting a lot of things, but second house, it can give money from mercurial careers, because second house is your resources, so they can have a very good knowledge and information about resources. They can be very knowledgeable, for example, about possessions, know everything about assets and things like that. And I have Mercury in the second house, an equal house system, so I can make money from Mercury, from communication, media, teaching, training, like right now, talking to others. Mercury in the second house can also give an interesting voice, good voice as well, because it's very strong. Mercury, second house is the voice they can have. Not mine, believe me, mine is not, but other people definitely can have a engaging voice. They can be good orators as well. They can have a lot of knowledge and information about possessions, values. They can have a narrative about values and resources and information, gather information about such things, and get ideas and information and different ideas about financial improvement and things like that, and resources. In the third house, I have it in the third house according to the whole sound system. They're all about information, gathering information, dispersing it. Journalists, writers, trainers, teachers, all those things, it comes naturally to them. In the fourth house, they can be natural and very skillful in anything to do with property and anything to do with the soul. They can be good communicators about how to achieve happiness, for example. Fourth house rules the hidden part of us, which is the heart, the soul, and they can be probably very good psychologists with Mercury in the fourth house in Gemini. They can make people quite clear, understand what, they can help other people understand what certain reasons for their behaviors are because of the past or something like that. Or they can be good, they can have knowledge and information in regarding history. Fourth house is the history in regards to property, in regards to parenting, nurturing, caring, family history and things like that. Mercury in the or they can communicate, they might love to communicate about such things, family and all those things, Or they can be quite skillful at certain things which include nurturing, cooking, and get a lot, maybe write cooking books or things like that, In the fifth house, they can be natural. Fifth house is creative house, so writing skills, playing instrument skills, just like the third house. Third and fifth house, there is a lot of similarities. So Mercury in third and fifth house, they can be very natural to play instruments as well, to write, any kind of creative performances, or to manage such kind of creative businesses, creative amusement businesses, so to do with children in some way. In the sixth house, they can be great at arguments, great lawyers. The sixth house is argumentation and accusation and things like that. They can find the fault in such things and correct them, fix them. Great for medical people with knowledge about health, nutrition, people that gather a lot of information about such kind of sixth house matters, which is health, nutrition, medical service, law, litigation as well. And seventh house, they might have amazing ability to communicate about relationships. And my best friend has Mercury in Gemini in the seventh house. Everyone goes to her about relationship advice because they tell the story and she repeats it to them with her own words, and it makes it so much easier for them to understand and to see the situation more objectively when it comes to relationships. So she's the go-to person for relationships, and I tell her, become a relationship counselor, and she says, I don't want to because I might not be interested in the stories of people I don't know. Like I'm interested in your stories, but she has an amazing skill, so such people can be great counselors, advisors. They can help others see more objectively when it comes to relationships. So any kind of contracts, deals, they can be very good. What are the ones that try to create peace? diplomats as well. They can balance out the situation, or they can be very good deal makers and salespeople as well, business people of sorts. She's an amazing business salesperson, because seventh house is the business stuff like that. In the eighth house, they can gather a lot of information and can be quite interested in the occult, in hidden, in secrets, or in big finances, other people's finances, resources, banks, investments, and things like that. Mysteries. They have quite penetrating mind, and it's not going to be as superficial as the other positions of Mercury, because it will be in the eighth house, which becomes much deeper. So they can be great astrologers. They can even be a little bit tarot readers, interpreters, because Gemini is a very good sign for interpreting, making connections between images and things like that. So they can be great tarot readers, or such kind of interpreters of symbols, for example, or they can be great managers in crisis situations and in situations that involve a lot of changes, because Mercury in Gemini is extremely agile and very good organizer. And eighth house is sudden changes, sudden crisis situations, things like that. Or in the ninth house, they can be great, articulate explainers of philosophy, teachers, trainers, professors. Higher education is very important for them, because they can have successes there, and they can be very interested in philosophy, in literature, in the high achievements of society, literary achievements. They can be good writers as well. They can be good publishers there. They can be good, because ninth house is connected to publishing and such things as well. They can be good in business in foreign countries, international trading of some sort, or multicultural, multilingual environment situations, skills in such places, or businesses with different cultural areas. They can be Mercury in the 10th house. Naturally, leaderships. There is good leadership there, but leaderships like maybe they can be someone who has mercurial careers, because 10th house rules vocations, any kind of mercurial careers. And there'll be the 10th house is what you are remembered with, the highest achievements you have. So they can be, again, literally writing, speaking. They can they can have a lot of understanding about social order, about structures, governing, leading. They can gather a lot of information about such social order and social leaderships, in a sense. They can train such people or something like that. Or Mercury in the 11th house, for example, they can have great understanding about economy, great understanding about community, great understanding about network, great information. Maybe they're great networkers. They can connect people from all places. They can be good in markets. They can have a deep understanding of intricate networks, because 11th house is intricate networks, like stock markets, like the economy overall. It's an intricate network, complicated systems of things like that. And businesses, big corporations, businesses as well, they can have understanding and information there, and they can profit through friendships, in a sense. They can be gainful through information and gathering, because 11th house is the house of gainfulness as well. So and titles and honors, so they can be gainful and they can get a lot of information. Mercury in the 12th house. They can know about secrets. They can get information. They can keep other people's secrets. They can have a lot of information about spiritual matters, about the invisible world. They can be reading a lot of such books, and information about also 12th house rules. Place where they can get they can be very skilled in maybe managing hotels of places that are far away, like isolated, like whether it's hospitals, prisons, and things like that. But they usually have great imagination, because the 12th house is also connected with the subconscious. So the conscious mind, which is Mercury, and skill of writing, speaking, communicating, gets combined with subconscious impressions, which is imagination and spiritual guidance from higher world. So they can have great imaginative mind, those people, or be skilled at passion or art or things like that, more artistic, creative. So this is about Mercury in Gemini, great position. I love just their company. They're a lot of fun. Maybe sometimes, scattered and superficial. Maybe that sometimes they can have a bit of too much nervous energy because their mind is all over the place. They have to find ways to calm down this nervous energy. Contact with nature always helps slowing down the mind, but they get bored when they start slowing down the mind. But maybe that's their purpose on Earth here, to get things moving, to make it interesting for all of us. So thank you very much, Gemini Mercury's, and I'll see you in the next video, Mercury in Cancer.